Once I was with my younger son when I shot an animal which disappeared. I think it was a rose. It looked just like a monkey, and though it vanished, I did not face any despair nor any hardships after that incident. I saw the monkey at close range, took careful aim and shot it. I saw it struggling after the shot, but when I went to pick it up, it vanished without a trace. I think I shot the spirit called Rose. Yet, that night, I did not have any bad dreams or disturbing moments.
Generations of our forefathers have walked this very trail since they settled in Connemara nearly 400 years ago. The Angami tribe was the largest and the most powerful amongst all the 16 tribes of Nagaland. We were great warriors and hunters. We knew the spirits of the forests and were careful with whatever we took from it. And the spirits took care of us, blessing our land with an abundance of rice and hunting game. Hunting became our way of life, our tradition, and a symbol of our courage. Our hills teemed with the most exotic species of birds and animals.
I was out on a hunt, but since I did not find any wild animals, I was on my way back home. It was then I saw a bear ahead of me. I had a rifle and my brother was behind me. I supported my rifle on a branch and shot at the bear. My brother's gun didn't fire and the bear walked off. After a long search, we found the bear lying on the top of a cliff. I was standing on a fallen tree with my rifle. The bear was a little distance away. Suddenly, the bear stood up like this. I knew for sure it would attack. Knowing their dislike for the human face, I held onto a tree with one hand and was ready to push him with my other hand to fend off the attack. The bear jumped on me with a roar. I screamed and tried to push it back. It pulled my arm and bit me here. It tore my jeans and bit me all over my leg. I wasn't aware that it had already torn my face.
Hunting was a rite of passage for a boy to mature into adulthood. It was a dangerous life with its thrills and adventures. Hunting played a very important part of our lives. According to the ancient laws of our people, hunters were forbidden to eat the flesh of the animals they killed. They could only gift their prize to their friends and family. Hunting was never for greed or profit. In his day, Chayevi was known as a great hunter and a tracker.
Altogether, I've hunted about 80 animals.
As times changed, he struggled to teach the old ways to his sons.
When our forefathers hunted animals, they always shared the game with all the relatives and near and dear ones.
In many ways, we depended on the forest. Our women foraged for wild herbs, for food and medicines.
This is chikraga, very delicious when cooked with pumpkins. This is gawa, used for treating diarrhea. This is used by our forefathers to make garments. It is called pewa.
In the 1800s, our Connemara village proved to be the largest threat to British settlers in Kohima, 20 kilometers away. That is when the white men first brought the gun to our land. They burned our houses to the ground. We fought bitter wars, and the green slopes of our hills ran red with blood. In the end, a truce was declared, but something new had come into our lives, the gun, and the men loved their new weapons. The animals and birds were slaughtered by the thousands. Soon, there was not enough to hunt. Trees too were felled indiscriminately by villagers and outsiders. The forest was ravaged. The birds disappeared. The people observed their world changing before their very eyes. Mr. Tsilya Sakriya, a village elder, was amongst the first few to recognize the threat of rampant logging and hunting.
During 1980, our forest has been operated most of our youth. They brought more than 100 elephants from the plain sector side. So, we would like to take the initiative part to conserve our forest.
Meanwhile, steady supply of wild meat found their way to the distant towns of Kohima and Dimapur.
On Wednesday market, wild animals are brought by the villagers. Initially, the villagers used to hunt for their own consumption, but as the people in the town, they have already got the taste of this wild meat. They used to demand from the villagers, so the villagers want some fast money. When I saw this wildlife being sold rampantly in the market, it really touched my heart. I felt very sad. Then I found that the drastic measure in which I could stop this one was to involve the police. So I went and talked with the police SP that time, Mr. Chanarthan. He was very helpful and he gave me some boys so that I could go and seize the wildlife that was being sold in the market.
Over the next few years, the Dimapur police confiscated a variety of game. The constant pressure forced the traders to give up their trade.
वाइल्डलाइफ डिपार्टमेन्ट पुरा बन्द गरिदिছে এতিয়া তো আমাইहाला बिजनेस त एकदम खराब হৈ যাইছে উপায় নাই
The trade in wild meat did not spare the symbol of the state of Nagaland, the beautiful Blythe's Dragopan. The demand for the bird's delicious meat drove it to near extinction. Mr. Zinner is an influential Angami elder who works with the governmental agencies for the development of his village. He was to play a significant role in the future of Connemara.
It happened as such in 93 when I took the initiative to calculate the Tragapan birds killed by villagers. We counted about 300 birds have already been killed. So when we give this information to the government was also alarmed. We were informed that the value of each bird, Tragapan bird, is about ₹1 lakh.
Mr. D.K. Ziliang, a former chief conservator of forest, was the first to attempt the breeding of the Tragopan bird in captivity.
Tragopan is a dull bird. It cannot really be like a jungle fowl, intelligent, running away. It's very dull birds moving from branch to branch. And when you go to the forest, you just started barking, from nearby you, and people are shooting left and right. So I feel that unless some kind of effort is given to create awareness by way of breeding, people will go on exterminating, killing all the birds. The first year we could get some eggs, we started hatching it, but the chick failed to come out. We were not aware of what was the trouble, but 2-3 times it was because of the earthquake. So for the first year, the second year, the third year, it failed to get any result. It was quite frustrating, quite discouraging.
For a while, the people watched helplessly. Soon, some families came to be heavily dependent on hunting for their livelihood. The ancients say that if the rocky face of Chakiozie, the spirit of the forest, looks sad, it would be a successful hunt. The face is sad when it knows that some animal would be killed. And in this case, his face remained expressionless. Hunters walked deep into the hills, yet game was few. Women on their daily forage into the woods found fewer wild flowers and vegetables. A silence fell over the forests and village of Konoma. In 1998, Mr. Tilye was made a member of the village council. Using his new powers, he called the elders for a meeting.
On 6 June, this is the first meeting with the Nahama gathering in Arkhill. And I explained to them, it's a high time to stop everything, logging as well as killing birds and animals.
Tilye's words were new to the council. Hunting was the way to prove one's bravery in the warrior traditions of our people. The idea of conservation could threaten our very identity as the Angami tribe.
In my opinion, it is wrong of our village to ban hunting. We have no benefit in conserving wild animals. Rather, our crops would be consumed and destroyed by them. Our forefathers used to say that hunting does not lead to scarcity of animals.
For the first meeting, many people didn't understand the benefit of the conserving our forest.
But a few influential elders raised their voices in support.
Once upon a time, the wild animals, birds and plants lived beside us. We hunted animals of our choice for food. But today, one has to search and hunt, and if we continue hunting, they would become extinct.
Arguments and counter-arguments flew. The elders retired to their individual khels or colonies to discuss the idea with their own people. Mr. Tilye passed a restless night.
And at last, one morning, youth leaders they came and they said, by any means, 90% is agreed.
The village council had agreed to enforce the ban. Tilye heaved a sigh of relief. He was to find support from an unlikely front. The very youths who had been held responsible for the destruction of the forests and animals.
In one of our group picnics, we discussed the need to conserve wildlife. But since we could not do it alone, we suggested our concern to the village council, the elders, and the various groups in the village. And then the work began.
Overnight, the youth bodies organized themselves and put up notices banning hunting in the buffer zone of Konoma village. A strict fine of rupees 3,000 was to be levied on each person involved in any illegal hunt. Specially appointed individuals kept a sharp lookout for hunters and confiscated their weapons. Some tried to break the rules, nevertheless.
It took about 5 years for us to convince the people. By 1998, we successfully somehow convinced our villagers that we should not kill these animals.
The villagers held a total of 11 meetings. Finally, the majority was convinced. On 11 August 1998, a big feast was held. Mr. Thapuluvi Angami and his wife christened the new project the Konoma Nature Conservation and Tragopan Sanctuary, or KNCTS.
Our Konoma core sanctuary area is about 72 square kilometer. The whole village of our Konoma is about more than 200 square kilometer.
This Tragopan sanctuary at Konoma was the only Tragopan sanctuary in the world. We didn't know. We have not declared ourselves to be so, but it is rather a recognition given by Darwin Initiative, England, as well as the Center of Environmental Education, India.
Our new rules took the place of our old ones. A new order was established. The hunting had stopped. Only 300 square feet of wood was allowed only to those who had to build houses. Our women were forbidden to collect wild fruits and vegetables from the forest for sale. With the new ban, Agolye lost the only skill he had. Unable to do heavy work due to a crippling back injury, the once proud hunter, Agolye, found himself totally dependent on his wife.
Earlier, we had a lot of wild animal meat, but nowadays, he doesn't bring home anymore. After the ban on hunting, we haven't had any wild animal meat.
While many in the village went through a phase of painful transition, all was not lost.
Protecting our natural forest, at the same time we can get money through ecotourism. All those ideas has been expressed to the villagers, and at last the villagers came to know some more about the source of income.
The efforts of the villagers did not go unnoticed. In the year 2003, they found an ardent supporter in Mrs. Tangi, the then Secretary of Tourism. She set the ponderous wheels of the government into motion.
One day, I got a news from our Secretary, Mrs. Tangi, that we have been awarded the Green Village Award. So we were indeed very happy.
In a grand gesture of official recognition, Konoma was awarded a sum of rupees 3 crores under the Green Village project. The simple villagers grappled with their newfound fame and the pressure to create a viable infrastructure for ecotourism. Mr. Petero Kozetsuvi was appointed the convener of the Green Village project. He supervised the functions of various groups to develop Konoma as a tourism destination. The village men and women mixed concrete and paved pathways and built retaining walls. Green roofs became the favorite color for houses. Guest houses are being constructed to welcome tourists. Green waste paper baskets adorned the flowered pathways. Environment-friendly solar-powered street lights were set up across the village. Every month, on a special day, the children gather, clutching garbage bags and brooms with infectious enthusiasm to make their own contribution to the cleanliness of their village.
This morning, the Konoma Students Union is going to have a sanitation day, and we the students will clean up every part of the village.
Every month we work cleaning the village, and I think it's a good work for the students to do.
Possibly the biggest factor that went into the success of the idea of conservation was a high percentage of literacy. Thanks to the many schools run by the government and the churches, nearly 67% of the population is educated. The schools served as fertile grounds for new ideas to take root. The villagers have found support from people like Ashish Kothari, who have helped them to develop the ability to monitor and document the changes that have taken place.
What we found very unique about Konoma is the level of the village organization, kind of institutional strength that people have here. It's an extremely well organized, very strong, very confident people over here. We did not find the similar thing in many other villages, though of course it is beginning also in a lot of other places.
Slowly, the villagers understood the demands of tourism.
This is the entry point to the valley for the trekkers. So we have constructed this house for the trekkers to take rest. And we have also constructed a kitchen. And also there is a bathroom and also a toilet. And also a gazebo there for the tourists and the trekkers to watch the view of the village.
You can see a lot of signs of wildlife. Here there's a lot of bird life, there are signs of mammals, and wherever you speak to villagers like here where they have started conserving, they themselves will tell that the numbers of wildlife are significantly increasing.
The songbirds sing again in our trees, but will the Tragopan return?
I went into the real detailed calculation of the feed calculation, and we formulated the feed, we gave it to them. So the final year we got a good number of eggs. So we put into hatching. So when that hatching was given, watching every day, counting the result, it's really counting to the, to like your nerve, breaking your nerve. But finally it came out successfully. 8 chicks that came out, just beautiful.
On the 25th October 2005, there was a sense of excitement in the air. People gathered from far and near. War cries of our warriors rent the air as a long convoy of vehicles brought the Chief Minister, Mr. Nipio Rio, to our village.
Invoking God's blessing, it is my pleasant duty to unveil this monolith stone as a sign of inauguration of Konoma Green Village. Let his name be glorified through the Nagas.
Our village was formally declared a green village. The whole village turned up to celebrate, dressed in traditional attire. Our success story has spread to other tribes and villages. The story of Konoma is a process of learning and working together. We feel proud that others too can learn from us. In this land, our ancestors have walked. Their spirits remain with us. The forest has blessed us with abundance. Their spirits still stand guard over our ancestral gates. Our ancient monoliths stand like brooding sentinels in mystical timelessness. No longer shall the tranquility of our forests be shattered with the sound of guns. The face of Chakio Jie shall never frown again. If you pass this way, you will hear a forgotten song, the song of the birds.